Hi traders, welcome to our weekly top-down analysis. So let us begin. We are starting with volatility 100 from the weekly time frame. From the weekly time frame, if we zoom in, we can mark our levels. As we can see, price has been buying. However, we just stepped into this weekly demand zone right there. That is our demand zone right there, and we can see the sellers are already rejecting at this level, and we are headed to this demand zone. So our buyers from the weekly time frame, it's quite clear. As we can see, the sellers are now in control, and we are pushing from this demand zone from this supply zone headed to the demand zone. Therefore, our buyers for this week will be looking for selling opportunities until at this demand zone. So heading over to the daily time frame. So from the daily time frame, we can see that there was a break of structure right there. So that is a break of structure. So we had a break of structure right there. And then price reacted from that order block, and we are getting a push to the downside. And then we also have, this is our most recent break of structure to the downside. So we have a break of structure right there. And then our order block, we are going to get a clear price action from the 4 hours time frame. So the chart is just taking a bit longer to load, probably because of the network. So from the 4 hours time frame, this is what we have. Price broke structure, and then it's now pushing from this order block. So that is a break of structure, and then price is pushing from that order block right there from the 4 hours time frame. And then our most recent break of structure, which is right here, we're going to position for this order block right there. As you can see, we have a break of structure right there. And then the order block, which caused the break of structure from the 4 hours time frame, it is that order block. Therefore, we're just waiting for price to go and mitigate that order block. We're going to be positioning for a sell at that order block. So that's pretty much it from the 4 hours time frame. If we go over to my entry time frame, which is the 1 hour time frame. So from the 1 hour time frame, this is what we have. So from the 4 hours time frame, from the 1 hour time frame, our order block our break of structure is right there. So we have our break of structure, and then the order block which caused the break of structure from the 4 hours time frame. It is that order block right there. It is that order block, and I'm seeing that break of structure right there as liquidity that price has to clear to go and dip into that order block right there. So that is a break of structure. And then my order block, I'm going to be positioning for a sell. I'm going to be positioning for a sell at that order block. At that order block right there. And I'm seeing this level as liquidity that price has to clear to go and tap into my order block. The liquidity right there. Therefore, this is what I'm expecting to happen on volatility 101S for price to go and tap in that order block and then give me a push to the downside, and then I'll join the trend. So I'm going ahead to place my sell limit. As you can see, price is quite far from that order block, but we are going to be patient and wait for it. My stop loss, I'm going to position there, and then my entry price, it's going to be obviously at that order block, and then my take profit is going to be at that low right there. Stop loss slightly below that low. Therefore, if you wanna enter this trade with me, you can go ahead and place a sell limit with your entry price at 1003.71, with your stop loss at 1053.68, and then you take profit at 917.22, and always apply proper risk management, as the market can decide to do whatever it wants to do. We are basically mere speculators. Therefore, always have to apply proper risk management. So this is what I'm expecting, what I'll be watching out for this week on volatility 100. As everything is aligning, we have a break of structure, we have an unmitigated order block, we have liquidity that's present here. Therefore, I'm going to be watching out for this trade this week. And then heading over to volatility 100. As we can see, price has been very bullish. We have been buying from this demand zone, and volatility 101S has been clearing all-time highs, and we are still pushing. Our next level of interest is that demand, where we are going to wait for price to tap in But as you can see, price is still very far from that demand. Therefore, my bias for this week is still going to be bullish. As you can see, price is pretty much still breaking all-time highs. It's breaking structures. Price is breaking these structures to the upside. Therefore, my bias for this week, it's still bullish until I see reasons to sell. But I'm still bullish because we are still pretty quite far from that supply zone as price is still breaking all-time highs. So our bias is clear from the weekly time frame. Heading over to the daily time frame. So from the daily time frame, let me just remove that. From the daily time frame, we have a break of structure right there. We have a break of structure and price just stepped into this daily order block. Price has stepped into that daily order block right there. And we are shooting up from here. As you can see, that is a tweezer bottom. The buyers are still in control of this market. Therefore, we should also follow the trend. We are bullish. And then if we go over to the 4 hours time frame, from the 4 hours time frame, we can see price is reacting from this 4-hour order block. And we are pushing up from there. We just adjust my break of structure. As we can see, price is pushing up from our order block here. And we have a resistance up there. Therefore, that is a resistance we can watch out for. Yes, it's still capable of sending price to this order block or this support area. And then zooming in, we can see that we have a break of structure right there. So we have a break of structure. And then the order block, which caused the break of structure, is right there, where price can still come back and retest or mitigate. Therefore, we have that order block, which can be a point of interest for us. Heading over to the 1 hour. So from the 1 hour time frame, so adjusting our break of structure, it's going to be right there. So we have a recent break of structure. We always work with the most recent break of structure. That is what our strategy is all about. And then the order block, which caused that break of structure from the 1 hour time frame. it is that order block right there. And then we can see our swing high at that point. And then we can also see price is breaking these structures, is breaking new highs. However, if price did not mitigate this first order block, as it's moving, as it moves up, all these order blocks that price is creating here, all this becomes liquidity that price has to clear to come and tap into that order block, right there. So all these break of structures up here that price is creating, according to my strategy, I see all this as liquidity, and I don't place entries at those order blocks because I see them as liquidity that price has to clear the liquidity that is sitting here, that price has to clear to come and tap into my point of interest, which is this first break of structure. That is how the strategy works. We always deal with the most recent break of structure, and if price did not mitigate this order block, all these order blocks that price is creating up here, I see them as liquidity level or inducement level. Therefore, I don't place my entry at those order blocks. And then now our setup is intact. We have a recent break of structure and mitigated order block. We have liquidity present. Therefore, I can go ahead and place my buy limit if my stop loss slightly below the last week rejection. Therefore, you can go ahead and place a buy limit on volatility 101S with your entry price at 1696.25, with your stop loss at 1652.65, and then with your take profit at that swing high, your take profit at 1838.15. That is the setup that I'm going to be watching out for and see if it plays out. Therefore, I'm expecting for price to still come back and mitigate my order block or retest my order block, and then still give me a push to the upside until that resistance area. That is the setup that I'll be watching out for this week. All right, traders, that's it for this episode. If you did enjoy the episode, please consider subscribing to the channel and become part of the family. And happy trading. See you next week.